control the vertical.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery, suspense, anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today we are talking about an episode of The Outer Limits called Second Chance. This was season 1, episode 23. It was there was a teleplay by Lynn Dane, but that is a pseudonym, and Lou Morhaime. Cinematography by Kenneth Peach, directed by Paul Stanley, and I think this is his first go at one of these episodes. It originally aired on March the 2nd, 1964, and the notable person in it is Simon Oakland. Simon Oakland is a genre kind of hit, really. What's he played? Mostly I know him best as playing the grouchy editor Vincenzo from the Night Stalker TV series with Darren McGavin. He's the grumpy, gruff editor. He's also the psychiatrist who appears at the end of Psycho and gives an explanation of what's gone on. Now, we don't actually see him here because he's heavily made up. However, he is. His voice is put to good use within this particular episode, and he comes across rather well. He plays an alien called Empyrean. Now, he comes from a place called Imperia, so I think this is more his race than his name, but that's how he is referred to. It's an interesting episode. This has got quite the convoluted story. There was an original script called Joyland, which apparently was a much better script than this, and it had quite sophisticated character development and nuance, and it was considered by all quite a good script. However, the network didn't like it. It was too, I don't know, cerebral or something. They wanted much more, scary looking aliens, risk, horror. That's what they wanted beefed up. So there was a rewrite. Which was done by Lou Morhaime, which kept the basic plot, but throughout all of the nuance, a lot of the humour and so on. They kind of sacrificed that script, the original script. And as I say, Lou Morhaime wrote the original. Sonia Roberts was the original writer, but she did not want her name on the script, so she asked for the pseudonym Lynn Dane. Now, if you think about it, if you take off the first letters, that becomes Inane, and she called it Inane. She actually referred to the rewrite as Inane. Yeah. Okay, so essentially the premise of this high-level concept is probably what sells it, actually, is that if you're on a ride in somewhere like Disneyland, a spaceship ride, and you suddenly think, what happens if this was a real spaceship? That's the premise for this. Essentially, people in a place called Joyland, a theme park, go on this space ride where they're being given free tickets. Now, the alien is walking around undisguised, but obviously people think it's a costume, giving away free tickets, and he's trying to get, I don't know, certain types of people to go. And it turns out this is a real spaceship, and they've gone into space. Now, the pilot, the so-called pilot, because it's a ride, is a former physicist who has found this job piloting this flying saucer simulator because he's fed up with working for the Defence Department, where he's been developing weapons of mass destruction, which he doesn't want to do. He wants to do what he wants to do, and he certainly doesn't want to develop weapons that can be used to harm people. But in the meantime, the whole thing's been sort of sidetracked by this alien from the planet Imperia, who has modified the ride to make it a real spaceship, recruited people so when they land, and it all comes to pass. Now this effectively then turns into one of those pieces where it's a lot of people crowded into a single place and tensions rise. That's essentially it. He explains to them, you're here because we realise there's an asteroid, I think it is, coming to our planet, which will collide with our planet and destroy it, but that will in turn then be knocked off course and then hit Earth. So in 82 years time this will all happen, so we need to start work now on the asteroid by settling on it and doing work on it. Now, it turns out most of the inhabitants of Imperia cannot leave their home planet. There's something genetic or something that's bound them to the planet, but a few can. Now, apparently in the original script, Imperia was actually... Sorry, the character Imperia was actually... By leaving the planet, he sent himself to death, so he only had 6 months to live by just by leaving, and this was like his effort to sort of try and save both his planet and Earth. They don't make it explicit in this version of the script, so it seems like a bit goofy, but what he explains is there's a few individuals from Imperia that can leave and will kind of settle this asteroid, but they also need people from Earth to settle on it, do this work to try and divert its course, and this will save both planets, and that's how it's played. Now he's kind of saying to them, you're a group that needs a second chance, you're here because you need this, and I thought I'd give it to you. Sorry, it's not an asteroid, it's a planetoid called Tithra is what they call it, but then we get like, it's a bit, I don't know, 12 Angry Men in some respects, and everyone gets a bit of a monologue. There's some characters, or quite a lot of the characters are actually stereotypes of sort of certain American types, and again the original script had it much more nuanced, but this settles into stereotypes and almost cannon fodder in one or two cases, as it were, fodder to be to sort of move the story along. Essentially, David Krull, the physicist who's in charge of this ride, finally talks to the alien. It's a little threatening. There's bits here where he basically says, please put your seatbelt on, otherwise I might have to destroy you. There's that kind of business. Though, I have to say, I do like this alien. Simon Oakland gives a great performance, and it's a bit Spock-like. That's kind of the best. He's logical, he's calm, collected. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't really show strong emotions, but Simon Oakland really delivers. The voice really works, so I really liked it from that point of view. And essentially, David Krull talks him down. Basically, he says, look, none of these people want to do this job. If you go back to Earth and explain what you need, you will get lots of volunteers from Earth. I guarantee it. So this is a reasonable argument, and the Empyrean takes him on that, and he says, I trust your judgment, and then they go back to Earth, and it finishes. So there you go. It's okay. It's really the thing to watch it for is the performance of Simon Oakland. I really like that. There's a few decent shots, but I've seen way better in The Outer Limits. But it moved on at a fair pace. It dragged a bit in places. The drama between the individuals who were, some of them were kind of fantasists in that they were pretending to be something they weren't, or in a situation which they really weren't, in terms of their real lives. But yeah, it was okay. It could have been done better, and I imagine the original script, which I think was called Drew Ride, I think I said that already, but it got modified into Second Chance. So it was okay. Let's put it that way. They apparently did use a real attraction for some of the external shots, a real sort of fairground ride, but the rest of it was purely studio, which is fair enough. There's no one else particularly of note in terms of the actors in this, I don't think. None that really jumped out on me. But as I say, the director was Paul Stanley, who did go on to direct sort of apparently better episodes of The Outer Limits later on. But he directed things around this era, such as The Untouchables, Lost in Space, Hawaii Five-0, Kojak, and he even progressed into the 70s into things like $6 Million Man. So it was a jobbing TV director. And look, some of his later credits include Fall Guy and MacGyver. So we're going into the 80s there. So let's go and look cool. So not a great episode, but an okay one. Not bad, I guess. I'd put it very right in the middle, I think. It wasn't boring particularly, but it didn't really enthrall or rise to something more than it should have been. Okay, that's me. But before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to